Hello and welcome to Let's Get Growing. It's Jo Swan here, the educational gardener at Boar Forest Garden, and we are in mid-May nearly. So let's look at our packs. So I'm going to start today. So you should have 3 items in your pack. So this one is a cayenne pepper plant. So it's like a chili pepper, it's not a very hot one. So the first thing we're going to do with it is have a look at its root system. And it's filled its pot, so we're back to the same old principle of potting on. So we need to get this into a bigger pot, so I'm going to go for this size. Sometimes chilies just sit there and look like they're not doing anything for a long time, and then suddenly, as soon as it sort of warms up, they burst into life. So I think it sort of warrants going into this size pot. Okay, I'll press compost back around it, water it, and then I'm going to protect this. I'm going to keep it in the polytunnel. If you haven't got a polytunnel, you might want to think about a cloche, plastic bottle. So that's the chilli plant. So related to chilies, the next thing I'm going to look at is my tomato plant. So we can see we have planted our tomatoes and our aubergines actually in the polytunnel, so they went in earlier this week. They're looking like very robust, still like the warmer weather. So the first thing I'm going to do with my Tommy is what I showed you last time, which is a continual process that you have to do throughout the summer. So we've got our main shoot here, and that's our side shoot. So we're going to pinch out the one that's coming up in between the two, all the way down the plant. I've got another one there. And I wouldn't leave these lying around. I'd get them out, because otherwise the smell can attract sort of predators. So the next thing I'm going to do with my tomato is have a look at its root system, and I'm pretty sure that this is ready for a bigger pot, and it is. It's totally filled it. So I'm going to use this nice big pot here. I'll put a few pebbles in the bottom. You can use broken plant pots, whatever you can get your hands on, slates. I don't want my plant to be too high because it's going to need a lot of watering, so I'm just going to have it about an inch below the top of the pot so it can retain some water in there. So I'm going to give it a good water, but I won't be watering the tomatoes leaves, so I'll just be watering around the base of the plant, because remember the tomatoes don't like to have the wet leaves. It encourages diseases. So I would give it a water, and then whilst we're talking about watering, so one of the difficult things from now on, though we have had some rain this week, but we'd be desperate for it, is especially when you're growing in pots, is trying to keep everything watered. So just a few tips. One thing that's really good for things in pots is to put a mulch on. So when this is watered, and I'm just using these clay pebbles because that's what we had donated. You could use slates, you could use gravel, you can use grass clippings, homemade compost. So the idea is that you're stopping the moisture from evaporating here, so you're trying to keep it, when you water, you're trying to keep it in the pot. And another tip is to put your pots in, I don't know if this will fit in here, but this is a tray that's got no holes in. So a lot of our plant pots, especially the ones by the gate, we try and put them into trays so that when you water, the water stays in here. The downside of this is that if you did have a period of prolonged heavy rain, that your plant's just going to be sitting in water. So every so often you might want to just to check that it's not just sitting there, especially if it's not very warm weather, because that won't be very good for it. So look at that, looks better already. So onto this week's pack. So another thing in your pack besides the cayenne pepper is Echium. So Echium vulgare. So this is grown as a hardy annual. It is got a bluey pink colour. It doesn't look like very much at the moment, but when it grows you get this profusion of flowers that are just fantastic for bees, and you can put it in your veg beds, you can put it in pots. So it's a really good wildlife plant. And you should have 3 of these. So what I've decided to do with mine is I've decided to make up a little planter. You don't have to do this, but it's just to give you some ideas. So it's going to be a kind of yellow and blue theme. So I'm going to use some plants from my previous packs. So I've got my calendula here, which is kind of desperate for something to go into a bigger pot. And then I've got my 3 dwarf sunflowers that kind of survived snail attacks. And they're not looking too bad, so I'm going to use this sort of little kind of window box. It's got some holes in the bottom. I'm going to put a few pebbles in the bottom for drainage. And then I'm going to use some homemade compost in the bottom of here. It's a bit rough, but I think these plants will be okay. It's quite a recently made one, full of worms. And that's just to save a bit of money on peat-free compost, really. So I'll put some of that in the base. And then I'll put a layer of peat-free compost. That should probably be about the right height for the sunflowers. So I'm just going to tip the sunflowers. They've filled the pots. So again, we're back to potting on. So I've got 3 of these. Just tease that out a little bit, not too much. And you see what I'm doing. I'm going to put my calendula in there. I need a bit more compost. That should be okay. And then I've got these little Echiums, which are the new plants in the pack. So if you're not doing this, what you do need to do is put them into bigger pots or into the ground as soon as possible, because they have developed quite an extensive root system in there. So I'm just going to put these on the front. And hopefully in a month or so these will all be in flower together. One there, one there. One here. And compost back into the holes. And then I would give it a water and again get a mulch on it and try and find a tray for it to sit in. Okay, so I've made up my yellow and blue planter, which is mainly flowers for the bees, but I've decided to make up another planter here. So I've just used things from previous packs, and it's a bit of a mixture of ornamentals and edibles, just to show you that you don't have to always separate the two. So the last thing in your pack is this dazzling blue kale, or you might have a scarlet kale. So it's brassica. You can eat the leaves. You can just cut a few off as and when you need them. And this is quite a decorative one that is should look quite attractive in here. But what I wanted to show you, and this applies to like all brassicas, is that when you're potting them on, when you're replanting them, you need to plant them deep. So when I say deep, you want to be planting them so the surface of the soil is up to here on the first leaves. So I'm going down here with mine and get it deep as I can. And then you've got your composting. They really like to be very, very firm in the ground. So if you're putting them in the ground, you can even use your foot around them to heel them in. But these I'm just going to press down. So I've got in here some Cosmos, the white Purity, the white ones. And I've got some of the lettuce that we grew. And I've put some summer bulbs in as well, so a bit of an experiment. So we'll water that, and then it'll have a mulch on it. So finally, there's a few bits and bobs from previous packs. So this is the Snapdragons. I've just pricked these out, so I'm not going to show you. They're a little bit small, some of them, but I don't need to go through that with you, because you can look back on the video from last time if you need more information about pricking out. So over here, these were the lettuce that I did just to show you how you could do like a living lettuce box. So you could just cut them, eat it, and then hopefully it will regrow. So the corianders are doing okay. These are the ones we did in the half of a toilet roll tube because they don't like being disturbed, and 3 of them survived the slugs. They're okay. They're nearly ready for going into a bigger pot, but they'll be fine. The basil's done. I think there was more, but the basil's been eaten. There's 2 of them. So I will probably sow some more of that. It's a bit basil just get eaten. And these are my sweet peas, which are doing okay. And about to flower soon. And there's just, oh no, there's another gladiola. There's one gladioli coming up, and there's another one coming up. I can't remember how many we put in each pot. I don't know if it's 2 or 3. So they're doing fine. So I think that is everything for this week's pack. So thanks for watching, and if you want to share any of your stories with us on Facebook, it would be really nice to see how you're getting on. So happy gardening.